Hey everyone, it's Allie, and today I want to talk about my first Legacy of Phrecia farming strat. I have fallen in love with this strategy because it's where 70 to 80% of my currency has come from, and it is straight up the simplest strategy I've ever done in Path of Exile, period. This strategy requires no scarabs, no rolls, no anything special, and you only need one specific item mod that we're going to be stacking as much of as we possibly can. And the really nice thing about this is that you will be self-sustaining all of your maps, and with your maps, you're literally just IDing them and scouring them and shoving them in, meaning once you get this going, you literally have nothing to think about and you can sit there and just mindlessly farm as much as you want to until you're ready to sell and cash out. Today, we'll be discussing Destructive Plague Guardians, which is something I love doing in every single regular season of Path of Exile, but my god, is it stupid with the idols that we have to work with. Now, before we get into strategy, I do want to say that we will be fighting Guardians and we'll be fighting Maven invitations, so you do need a mid-game builds to be able to handle this, but if you have some around 4 to 5 million DPS or so, this shouldn't really be too difficult, and if you are a somewhat tanky build, you should have a pretty good time here. So with that said, let's get into strategy, let's discuss everything, and well, let's get you on your way of making quite a lot of money. So all we need for the strategy are just simply some idols. First off, we're going to need to get ourselves Destructive Play. This makes it so Maven will spawn 1 to 3 Atlas bosses based on how much of the map you cleared. And these bosses are going to act as if they're the final boss within your map. This is going to be important because we are going to be stacking idols that give us final map boss in each map has a chance to drop a Shaper Guardian map. So for the strategy, all we're going to do is simply do a Chimera, a Hydra, a Phoenix, and a Minotaur with Maven influence selected on the map device to then make her witness it. And then all we do is simply clear as much of the map as we can. So Maven at the end through Destructive Play spawns us 3 bosses. And then we simply just kill the Guardian at the end. We kill the map boss at spawn. And all of them, due to this idol, will have a chance to drop a Shaper Guardian map. Now, because we're expected to get 4 bosses every single time, that means all we need to do in this strategy is get at least 25% total chance for the final map boss to drop a Shaper Guardian map to be able to infinitely sustain our own maps. The beautiful thing about Shaper Guardian maps is you can take an Orb of Horizon and you can Horizon a Shaper Guardian into another Shaper Guardian, meaning the only thing you'll ever need for the strategy are some Orb of Horizons and a few Scours to scour all of your maps. What we then can do on top of this to make the strategy better is to get ourselves a second final map boss in each map drops a map. Now, our options here are to either get Synth or Elder, but for some reason, Elder and Shaper double mod idols are worth 3 to 4 times as much as Shaper and Synth are. There's currently no difference in price between an Elder Guardian, a Shaper Guardian, and a Synth map, meaning all we want to do for a higher budget version of the strategy is to grab ourselves final map boss drops a Shaper and a Synth map on every single idol that we can. When I personally bought these idols, they're about 1 div each, but I do expect them to go up a little bit in price, given that, well, this strategy is really, really good. But again, on a low budget, all you need is simply just a Shaper Guardian roll everywhere. These should be pretty cheap, and again, try to do whatever you can to get as high of a roll as possible, as you need at a minimum 25% to self-sustain. Personally, I'd recommend to go a little bit past that. I'd recommend to get to about 30 and maybe even 35% if you can, as then you'll over-sustain them, meaning you could in the future sell some of them to other people, and you'll never have to worry about any potential bad RNG that might show up if you only have a 25% chance. With that, all we are doing for the strategy is really simple. Take your maps and you're simply just gonna whiz them and then scour them and you're just gonna run them white. There's no reason to alch these at all, as we don't care about any of the map loot and we are literally just running over to the boss. The items that we're farming are not affected by map quant in any way at all, so there's no reason to make the map harder. You're literally just making less div an hour, adding stuff like Monster Life or Ellie Res or any sort of other mod on the map that might make you kill the Guardian slower. Our goal here is to do 2 to 2.5 minute maps, as we basically just want to churn through these as fast as we can. Once it gets to the end, you simply just kill the boss and you kill the boss that Maven spawns and you move on to the next map. Like I said, we're going to be doing Maven invitations. So you want to do one of each of the Shaper Guardians, and then you're going to go over to Karak, talk to him, and he'll allow you to do a Maven invitation where you fight all 4 of them again for even more loot. Now, for the invitations, you have 2 options. One, you could simply just run it white, where you just simply do a baseline boss, quickly kill it, and move on. Your other option is to alch it and roll it for either 80% quantity or 50% quant. The invitation itself is going to drop either 3 or 4 splinters, and with 50% quant, you're guaranteed to get 6 if it ends up dropping 4, and with 80% quant, you're guaranteed 7 if it chooses to drop 4. Now, the thing about this is that it's kind of hard to get 80% quant on this, at least relatively quickly, while 50% might be quick. You have to keep in mind, this is a speedrunning strat where all of our profit comes from being able to churn as many maps as possible as quickly as possible. This means if you're spending 30 seconds to a minute rolling the invitation itself, you actually lose money per hour sitting there trying to get more splinters than if you simply just ran the invitation white and moved on to the next set. It's up to you on how you want to go about this. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that some of these invitations with some of these mods can be relatively difficult. So if you're playing a squisher build, or if you're playing a build that has lower single target damage, this might be a little bit of a challenge for you. So keep that in mind. Literally, the only thing that the quant is doing is increasing the amount of splinters that you're getting, as we do not care about any of the other loots. The shaper fragments that you get are not affected by quants, and while sure, we could also increase the chance of awakened gems and orbs of conflict, they aren't worth enough right now to where we really need to worry about it, and you're adding maybe 1 to 2 chaos of extra profit per invitation that you do from that quantity when accounting for things that aren't specifically the splinters. Now, in terms of the profits from the strategy, well, they're really, really simple to deal with. The major thing that we're going to be getting here in return are going to be a fragment every single time you kill Guardian, as well as some additional fragments from the invitation itself. You're going to sometimes get yourself some orbs of conflict from the invitation as well, and you're going to see yourself quite a lot of maps. For the Shaper Guardian maps, you're going to have to keep them for yourself until you have enough of them to where you can start siphoning a few of them off and selling them to people. And if you do end up getting yourself double map idols to where you're starting to constantly drop synth maps, you're going to get yourself quite a lot of synth maps as well. Now, for these synth maps, it's going to be very, very easy to sell them off. All I'm personally doing is just shoving them into my map tab, and whenever I'm ready to sell them, I simply just take all of them out of here and just go over to a random tab that I have priced at whatever the current rate is. For example, currently, augmented distant memories are about 15 chaos each, and this is typically true for all of them. They all hold about the same value. So all I would do is simply right-click on my tab, make it public, set exact price on all items, and then in here, type a bulk rate. So for example, they're currently 15 C each, but typically in bulk rates, you can get a little bit more. So I want to sell them for 16 each, but if I simply just put 16 in here, then people would be able to individually message me for these, which is really annoying. So instead, we're going to type 32 divided by 2, which will then list them for 16 chaos each, but you have to buy them in set of 2. This means the only people that can message you for them are people who specifically come to the bulk item exchange and come over to maps and find them in here, meaning you're only going to get people who are going to want to buy multiple maps from you in the first place, meaning they're most likely going to buy all of your maps at once. So from there, you simply just shove all of your synth maps in here that you get, and well, you simply just leave them in here and wait for them to slowly sell. I've noticed that once I have maybe around 10 of a map, I'll get someone to message me, and obviously if you only have 3, 4, 5 of one map, you're most likely going to get skipped by people looking to bulk buy them because it's not really worth their time to only buy that many at a time. But the more you have, the faster you sell. The same thing is going to be said true about the shaper maps they might want to sell on top of any random elder or conqueror maps they get as well. You can simply just shove them into a tab, and once you have a few of them, people will come and buy them from you. When it comes to fragments, all you have to do is you simply just come over to the auction house, and well, you just simply put them up for sale here. What I'd recommend for you to do is to not sell them at this going rate, as this is typically a scam rate. What I recommend for you to do is to look at the other way around. For example, Phoenix fragments currently sell for 15 chaos each if I were looking to buy them from other people, and to simply list yours like that instead of selling them at whatever people are looking to buy them at. If I were to sell these Phoenix fragments right now for 7 C each, I'd be losing half the value of them in comparison to selling them for 15 chaos each. These do take a little bit to sell, and personally, I've been selling them in bulks of 20, 30 at a time. And I've noticed that after I leave it up on the auction house for maybe an hour to 2 hours at most, they will sell pretty quickly. On top of that, the final thing you're going to get in the strategy is going to be a lot of idols. What you're going to do with these is you're going to simply just ID them all and just shove them into a tab that's priced at 50 chaos each. What I personally have done is I've let the tab be set to 50C until it gets completely full. And then once it's full, I'm going to systematically go through and slowly reduce the price of it to sell more and more of these idols. I want to say probably half of the total profit in the strategy comes from just selling idols to people at 50C. Because you are killing 4 map bosses per map that you do, on average you get 2 idols per map that you do, and you would be surprised how many of them are worth at least 50 chaos. Very often you'll end up finding yourself an idol that's worth a div or more, which can be really nice. And because you're just dumping them all into a public tab, if it's worth more than 50C, you're going to immediately get spam for it, so you're just letting the greater public just do all the price checking for you. Once I do end up filling a tab like this, I'll end up setting it to 40C, and I'll let it sit like this at 40C for maybe an hour or two, and I'll just simply put it down to 30C, and a few more idols should sell at 30C, and then I'll put it down to 20, and well, you can keep going down like this as much as you want to. Personally, for me, 20C is the furthest I'll go, as I really don't feel like doing any smaller of a trade than that. At that point, I can simply take all these idols out of here and simply just vendor all of them and clean up my quad tab to resell again. I'm kind of lazy about this, so I'm now using 3 quad tabs for my idols. But if you were on top of it, and if you immediately went and clean up your tab, you should only need 2 quad tabs to be able to cycle between idols like this. Overall, in terms of profits, I have been holding about 7 div an hour or so doing the strategy. Again, your money per hour is going to simply be determined based off the speed of your build, and all these numbers are going to be based off of me playing my Kinetic Blast Whisper. I have since then build swapped over to a Blade Vortex Bog Shaman, and well, I've gone from doing 2 to 2.5 minute maps to now doing 1 to 1.5 minute maps. So realistically, my profits are most likely over 10 div an hour at this point. If we want to look at the breakdown for where this currency comes from the actual garden maps themselves, we're getting 15 chaos on average from the fragments. Unfortunately, Minotaur is worth like 10 C right now, but Chimera is worth around 20. So it all balances out to about 15 C per each individual fragment. With my current 31% chance for a Shaper map, I am generating half a chaos extra profit for every single map that I do from the extra Shaper maps I could eventually sell. I am making 2.8 C in Synth maps from the 16% Sim chance I have, and I'm averaging idols to be worth maybe around 5 chaos or so. I did say they're worth maybe around half the total profit in here, so maybe this is worth a little bit less, but I can tell you I am making an absolute killing selling these idols to people as I'm doing the strategy. In terms of the invitation itself, you get 1.5 Shaper fragments on average. I don't have a big enough sample size. I don't really pay attention too much to tell you exactly how much it is, but you do get more than 1 fragment pretty frequently. So I'm just going to average it out to about 1.5 or so. You're going to get 3 to 4 splinters if you simply run the invitation white, and you're going to get somewhere around 17 idols, given that you get substantially more idols from the invitation for some reason than you do from the actual bosses in the map. There's also other miscellaneous loot in here, such as Woke Gems, Orbs of Conflict, and the Maven Chisels, which are worth about 2 C or so on average. So in total, if you want to look at our profits, I'm currently making, with my personal rolls, 29.4 C per map and 49 chaos per invitation, meaning I make 166.6 C per rotation of 4 Shaper maps and an invitation. If we, again, want to use the old Kinetic Blast times, I was on average doing a Shaper map in about 2.5 minutes, which honestly is pretty slow, and the invitation was taking about 2 minutes to complete, which again, you could do substantially faster, meaning in total, it took me about 12 minutes per rotation that I did. If we want to multiply that by 5, we get 833 chaos per hour, or about 6.9 div an hour at 120 chaos per div. The faster you go, the more money you make. The slower you go, the less money you make, but honestly, I feel like 2.5 minutes per map, given you're literally just looking to run to the end while clearing as much of the map as you can, non-interacting with any mechanic, and simply just beelining it directly to the boss, is a pretty fair assumption for what I think the average player can reasonably do on pretty much any build. I've been having all fun with the strategy, as I've never done a strategy that basically self-sustains itself. This kind of reminds me of old apothecary farming strats where you got so many scarabs, you kind of self-sustained everything you needed, and all you had to buy was 8 mod maps. This is even better because, well, as soon as you get yourself maybe 2 or 3 Shaper sets to get you going at the beginning, if you don't have any Shaper maps lying around, you literally do not need to interact with another human being until you're ready to sell everything. The only thing that you actually have to manually sell to people are idols, and those don't really feel bad given you're making 30, 40, 50 chaos per idol that you sell, and the rest of it can just be shoved on the auction house to get competitive market prices for everything that you farm. This has been an absolute tree of a strategy, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, as Destructive Play is one of my favorite farming strats in PoE 1, and well, if you go and try it for yourself, I really hope you enjoy it too. If you have any questions on any of this, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to help you as soon as I can. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so feel free to come by and ask me any questions about it there. If you simply just want to come by and hang out with all the other kitties and be a part of our community, I'd be more than happy to see you there as well. And with that said, kitties, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video.